You gotta just do it for the camera.
Like we did it?
Yeah. What's going on, Team Bazooka? Another segment of the question and answer. Thanks again for following and messaging and all the amazing comments that make this special. You can see it's a little different today. I have my strength coach, my best friend, and my manager in my career, Costa Kladianos. Costa, man, what's going on?
Hi, you know how it is.
This is going to be pretty funny for me because it's the first time we've actually done a video together, so I'm pretty hyped up about it. But I've been getting a lot of questions regarding strength and conditioning and how I was so successful and why I was so strong and why my conditioning was the best. So with these few questions today, I'll have Costa answer them. But Costa comes with a lot of experience, and this is why it's amazing to have him on this channel as well as part of my career. He's worked with the Toronto Maple Leafs. He's worked with pro baseball players and athletes all across different levels. He's worked with the CFL, now works with Tennis Canada. So he's a big name in Canadian sports and especially in strength and conditioning. Did I miss anything?
I think we're good, yeah. The check's in the mail.
Yeah.
No, thanks.
Let people know, man. Let people know
so
what's
I've
up.
run Tempus Performance for 15 years now, working with Joe, and like he said, working with Toronto Maple Leafs, was the assistant strength coach for a few years, along with Matt Nickel, who owns BioSteel, and then moved into working with pro baseball players like Dalton Pompey, a lot of draft picks, Andy Yerzy, Gareth Morgan, a lot of players from the junior national team, and then MMA. So got into it, had a passion for it, love learning about strength and conditioning, love training people, and I mean, I realized early on I didn't have the genetics to compete at the highest levels like these guys, so I love training the freaks and watching how far we can go.
Don't be fooling everybody.
That's it.
All right, let's get into some questions. First of all, Dan Miguel, thank you for the positive comment, and I'm glad that these have been helping you implement into your sessions and helping you, improve. Joel Martinez trying to call me out, and he asked me with an honest question. So Joel Martinez, are you watching these videos? And yes, I do read the questions, and I'm calling you out. I'm calling me out if I read the questions. So yes, Joel Martinez, I do read these questions. All right, let's get into some of the questions. The first one is from Mohammed Inam, and this is, I'm going to go through the strength and conditioning questions first. And even with the other questions, Costa will come in and bring his opinion. He's very opinionated. Let's see how much of that opinionated self comes out in these questions.
I'll try and behave.
Okay, first one. How do you set up your strength and conditioning? 5 reps of 5 or higher reps, etc.? What types of exercise? How many times a week?
So I mean, it's not all one size fits all. Everybody's different. You have to train differently. There's no one way to do it. You'll hear all these gurus out there saying, oh, this is the only way, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. No, absolutely not. Everybody's different. You have different genetics, you have different work, you have different goals. But I mean, just for an example, we'll use what we did for Joe when he was competing and won the world title. Joe is a little bit of a different beast. He kind of do everything in. Some guys you have to kind of kick in the butt to get going. Joe, we had to kind of calm down and kind of hold him back because he wanted to do too much, and you kind of get into the area of overtraining. But with Joe specifically, for kickboxing, we really worked on explosiveness. That's the key. Get explosive in your hips and do it, being able to repeat that with your punches, kicks, and knees and clinch, whatever you need over those 3 to 5 rounds for 3 minutes each. And to do that is not going to be by jogging for 20 minutes to an hour. You have to really get explosive. So it's a lot of Olympic lifting, a lot of squats, a lot of deadlifts for strength. So you do low reps. We started off like 3 to 5 reps, get really heavy. So he's able to kind of use the maximum amount of effort and be able to repeat that for a few times and able to recover quickly.
But I mean, I'm going to stop you there for a second. I think there's a big misconception. A lot of people think it's only explosiveness, right? And they think that you're going to get good explosiveness just working explosiveness. And I know in a lot of the interviews you've done before, you talked about you need that strength base before you get explosive.
Yeah, and that's a good point. Because if you have someone who's weak, who's never lifted before, and they're kind of trying to get explosive, it's like, what are you getting explosive? So get strong to begin with. So if you're just
one of my
starting
prefix,
out,
you said the feather duster.
Yeah, it's like if a feather duster goes at 100 miles an hour or a truck goes at 100 miles an hour, what's going to hurt you more? It's lots of motion. So I mean, like I was talking about how we do with you, but if you're starting from the beginning, you want to get that strength base. So I mean, 5x5 program is good. if you're just starting out, to get you strong. So look those up. Strong Lifts, West Side for Skinny Bastards is a great program done by Joe DeFranco. Jim Wendler has a program out there, 531, and this applies to all sports, to get strong to begin with. Because with Joe, you got to remember, we're working at the level of a world champion. Most people, 99% of the people out there are starting and they want to learn, they want to get stronger, they want to get bigger, they want to get faster. I mean, it's not that case where you're going into the gym and you're going to look like Arnold training 3 times a week. You could train 10 times a week, you're not going to look like Arnold. Like, I wish it was that easy. It comes down a lot to genetics and hard work and nutrition. But if you want, you have to get that base to be strong, and you'll be better at everything. So look up those programs if you're just starting. Get in there and put 100% effort into it. That's a lot of the things that people miss. They'll follow a program and they're not going to be consistent with it. You could have the best program in the world, and if you're not consistent, you're not putting 100% effort, it's not doing everything, and then you're going to go to jump another program because this one doesn't work. Honestly, most of the stuff out there works. Just be smart about it, but be consistent. Consistency is the secret. Everyone's like, what's the secret? It's consistency, especially at the beginning level. So get in there, get every day, put in 100%, and work the 23 hours outside the gym and your nutrition and your rest. If that's all 100%, then you're going to see results. Like, I don't care what program you do.
Okay, so let's ask one more, because I know you can talk.
All right, I can go forever, yeah.
So let's ask another question, and then I have a few questions that have been asked like throughout the series that people have asked that I'm going to ask you anyways. So someone said they train kickboxing or Muay Thai 4 times a week. This is from Romel Katap or Katapi, whatever way he pronounces it. But he trains kickboxing and Muay Thai 4 times a week. He wants to get back into strength and conditioning. Any recommendations?
Yeah, like I said, pick a program out there, one of the ones that I said that were great, and go and do it. And do it every day along with your kickboxing. But don't do your strength and conditioning at the detriment of learning your technique. If you really want to compete in kickboxing or MMA, a lot of beginners make that mistake. Oh, I need strength and conditioning. Yeah, training in the gym is important, absolutely, but they do that at the detriment of actually learning what they have to do. You got to spend your time learning your technique, learning how to throw a proper kick, learning your strategy, learning the punches. And I mean, that should be your focus. And you're going to get stronger just doing that. You're going to get in better shape just doing that. A kickboxing workout's insane. And I mean, you're working all kinds of muscles you didn't know you had. And you're working your technique at the same time. So work on that, and then add in strength.
But if he wanted to add a little bit of strength and conditioning, it wouldn't hurt.
No, absolutely.
But you wouldn't want to remove one of those kickboxing days for those.
Yeah.
I mean, if it's supplementing over taking away a kickboxing day.
Yeah, work your kickboxing first, and then if you have extra time, let's say you're doing kickboxing 4 times a week, go train twice a week. Do in the gym strength work twice a week, and I mean that'll be fine when you're working with your strength and conditioning, or when you're working with getting back into kickboxing, okay, and then you can lay it out.
Let's keep going. I got some very important questions. What drives me nuts is when people talk about strength and conditioning as one concept, and it's like one thing. So without you spending 5 hours explaining it, we'll have you on again. If the comments are positive and people like it, we'll bring Costa on again. Otherwise, we're going to keep talking, and I'm just going to sit here and listen. But he's spitting a lot of good knowledge, so make sure you listen. So strength and conditioning, people think as one term. Explain.
2 completely different things. Strength work is one thing, conditioning is the other thing. Strength work is what gets you strong, what it lets you throw with power. Conditioning work is what lets you go 3 to 5 rounds. And you got to work them separately. I see a lot, before I get into this is the way I do it. This is the way that's worked for me and my clients. There's more than one way to skin a cat. If what you're doing works for you, that's great, go nuts. If you can learn something from this, that's great. If you don't like it, what are you gonna do? You don't have to do it. But this is just what works for me and my clients. I see a lot of people who do these circuits with light weights and kind of do them, and it doesn't do anything. It'll get you in great regular shape. Yeah, it'll keep you good maintenance. But if you really want to focus on being good at kickboxing or whatever sport that you're doing, you gotta separate strength and conditioning. Get strong, and then work your conditioning at a different time. Because if you try and do the same thing at one time, it's kind of that jack of all trades, master of none type. So work everything on its own. Periodize your work. Work your kickboxing on its own, work your strength work on its own, and work your conditioning on its own. And have a properly laid out plan that's consistent. Again, the most important thing, if you want to compete, if you want to get to a high level, hire a coach. Don't try and do it yourself. Sidney Crosby's got a coach, the best hockey player in the world. Joe has coaches, best kickboxer in the world. So you look at any high-level athlete, they have coaches, so why don't you? Let them kind of get that high-level view of you and lay it out, so that way you don't have to try and do everything yourself and you can focus on your training.
Okay, moving on. People think working out in strength. You see a lot of athletes, and I'm going to bring it up one at a time. I know this can be a touchy subject for Costa.
Here we go.
So we're going to bring it up. But first things first, everyone always asks, before we get into that sensitive topic, the difference between people go to the gym and they use a bodybuilding routine as a sport specific. And you see them at the gym doing a lot of biceps, and we've never done one bicep curl in our exercise.
Right.
Why, and the difference between bodybuilding and strength training?
Yeah, and again, you got to be specific for what your goals are. I mean, bodybuilding training is great for bodybuilders. I mean, those guys are jacked, those guys are strong, but they're not training to be in a sport. They're training to look good on stage, look good at the beach, wherever.
So a little bit, the question I'm trying to pull out of you is you're isolating muscles in bodybuilding, and you're trying to fatigue little muscles.
Right.
Where when we do strength, we're doing more compound exercises.
Yeah, because sports, if you look at most every sport, the energy comes from your hips, and you have to find ways
Not the biceps.
Not the biceps, But I mean, it gets transferred to the biceps sometimes, maybe. But the energy comes from the hips. You got to get your hips strong. You got to work them with everything. So let's look at baseball when you're trying to hit a ball, right? You're using every muscle in your body. So why are you going to work every muscle individually so you're not getting those kind of reactions to your body? Whereas a squat works your whole body, and it teaches your hips to get strong, and it works with the rest of your body.
So the biggest difference is with the sport-specific training, you're working areas that are going to help you with explosion. So hips, your glutes, your lower body.
Yeah, and that prevents injury too, because you're getting your tendons stronger. You're not just getting your muscles stronger. And the tendons are what you work in sports. So you have to have strong tendons, or else that's going to snap. If you have big muscles and weak tendons, you're going to be in a world of hurt with injuries.
Okay, here we go. The sensitive topic, and I know the people around here listening to this are going to, some people might be upset with it, some people might agree with it, but Costa, can you please give the Team Bazooka listeners, you know what I'm asking?
About CrossFit?
About CrossFit.
Right.
Let's go. Is CrossFit a good way for fighters to implement strength and conditioning into their sport, into their martial art? Your thoughts on CrossFit?
Okay, first thing, if CrossFit's working for you and you think it's great, go nuts. If it's working for you, I love it.
The politically correct answer.
If you're just trying to do it to get in shape and you're having a great time there, you're challenging yourself, go crazy. I think it's great for that. But in terms of sport specific, I don't think it's the best, just because,
They're holding back, I like it.
I don't see any Olympians using it. Olympians are probably some of the best and the most advanced in the world at what they're doing for strength and conditioning in terms of what the science backs them up. You can't really periodize your CrossFit. There's a lot of high rep things like Olympic lifts, which are very, very technical, and you have to do them right. So if you try and do them in a lot of reps for time, it's tough to do them properly, and you're not getting the result that you want for your sport. And when you're periodizing, you're working certain days on speed, certain days on strength, certain days on explosiveness. You can't really do that on the workouts of the days of CrossFit. There's a big injury risk. A lot of people get injured doing CrossFit. There's some boxes that are doing it properly, which is fine. Again, if that's what you're doing, it's great. But as an athlete, you need a periodized program. You need something that's going to work specific areas that you're weak on or need development on at different times in compared to your sport training. So it needs to be properly laid out. And personally, I don't think CrossFit works the best for that, but if it does for you, that's fine. But everyone's got their own opinions on it. All
right, a little nicer than I thought. I was expecting a little bit more hatred behind it.
No hate. There's different ways to do things, right?
Okay,
I'm not
fair.
the only way.
What about your thoughts on kettlebells? Because I know kettlebells is another popular within martial arts. Your thoughts on kettlebells and martial arts?
Kettlebells absolutely have their place in training. But what a lot of people make the mistake of, they're like, oh, I do kettlebells for my strength and conditioning. Well, that's like me saying, oh, I do dumbbells or I do barbells. It's, again, part of an overall program.
It's a training tool.
It's a training tool as part of your overall program.
So I look at it like within fighting, you don't just hit the long bag. You hit pads, you hit little mids, you hit bigger mids, wall pads, wall bags. So there's different tools to do it.
You can't be closed-minded. You can't just say, this is the one thing that we're doing. No, like, when I look at how I started training people 16 years ago, and now I always change. I always add in things. You can't be closed-minded. You have to add, take away, see what's working, see what changes. And I mean, that's the key. You can't just say, oh, I did kettlebells today. I'm like, okay, but do everything. Why are you not doing something else? You know, what's the reasoning? If you have reasoning, fine. But I mean, there's all these tools. There's all this information out there. Like, don't close your mind to it, and just because it's the new fad of the day.
Okay, let's keep going. If you had to pick the most important exercises, say for example, like the one question we had earlier about, I kickbox 4 times a week. I don't have much time. Most people who are kickboxing training work a full-time job. They kickbox, they have family time when they get home, so it's very difficult to fit everything in. So if they had a limited time, say a day or two, what would be the main lifts that you would recommend for them that'll give them the biggest bang for their buck? I know what it is. I get all my guys to do it, but the main lifts that all fighters should have built in their program.
Yeah, I think the most important lift you can have is a squat, but a proper squat. Most people, it's a very technical lift. You can't just go under the bar and do it. There's very few people who know how to do it properly. Again, you should invest in a coach for it because there's progressions.
Or positive comments, and we force you to have a segment Team Bazooka Strength.
Yeah, well, we'll see.
Make sure you like it, guys.
But
make sure.
Get someone and
hype them up.
Here we go. Progressions are key. So you start at a box, you start with the goblet squat, teach that proper movement pattern, and then kind of get under the bar. Whether you want to do a front squat, back squat.
Squat.
A squat. It's because it works everything. It works your hips, back, overall strength. It's the king of exercises. Deadlifts also are important.
Deadlifts too.
Again, a very technical lift that you got to learn properly. And then, I like bench press, whether you do them with dumbbells or not. A lot of people don't like bench press. That's fine. But I think, it works. It works. You can work explosiveness on it. You can work your triceps, you can work your shoulders. I mean, you look good doing them too, right? Whether you're working with dumbbells or the bar, that's fine. And then there's accessory work that you want to do it after to stay healthy, like reverse hyperextensions are great for your back. A lot of band work's good, but a lot of people do all mobility and band work at the expense of strength. And I mean, you got to actually get under the bar at one point. Learn how to do it properly and get yourself under the bar and just lift.
So there you go. That's our first segment with Costa Kladianos on strength and conditioning. We have a few questions we're going to answer, and Costa's a lot of knowledge here, so I'm going to use him within these questions. And again, please, if you guys like this segment on the strength and conditioning, I'm really trying to convince Costa to have a regular segment. So please, if you like the reaction, you like what he's teaching, we'll get into more specific, because he did give a lot of knowledge that does need to be broken down technically, scientifically, and in a program. There's so much knowledge that he said. So again, if you guys like this kind of stuff, make sure you like and motivate him.
It's hard in a 10-minute video to talk about it, so it's a really high-level view when we're talking now, guys. So.
Well, like my technical series, everything is scientific, everything is broken down properly. So if you guys like it, and I'm telling you, you got to show the positivity and the love over to Costa, and it'll motivate him to want to come in and answer more of your questions. All right, one question is from James Alvier. Again, he's a member at our gym, and he really wanted to share this question with everyone. He says, since I'm concerned about stunting the growth in my kids, what age would you recommend they can start training in kickboxing and Muay Thai? I'm going to start off with this one, and then I'll move it over to Costa, because I want him to talk a little bit more about the stunting of the growth. But my main thing is I started with a martial arts background of Taekwondo, and I did it for 10 years. And I think it's an amazing base for children, whether it's karate, Taekwondo, because you learn solid footwork drills. You learn how to kick, you're strengthening, you're stretching. I work with a lot of fighters now who haven't had that traditional martial arts background. Their hips are tight, they can't control their hips, they're not as explosive with their kicks, they don't understand stance as much, so it's a good base to get into kickboxing. And the thing is with kickboxing, there really isn't patterns, forms, there's not too much of a technical history side to it. So I would recommend an early martial arts before the age of maybe 13. I think 13, I would say at the early teens, is where you'll get that good interest in wanting to learn the solid basics, the power, the sparring. And at an age, kickboxing is really hard on the body, so I think it's important that they develop a good base in other martial arts. My recommendation would be around the age of 13. But talk a little bit about stunting the growth. Would it stunt your growth early? And as things happen, we'll relate that to strength and conditioning. Parents don't want to put their kids into strength work too early because of that stunt the growth.
I'm going to go on a little rant here about this. Stunting the growth, it's a myth. I mean, doesn't happen. But a problem that I have is specialization in an early age with kids these days. Look back at Wayne Gretzky. He used to play every single sport. Didn't hurt him in hockey. What happens now is that parents send their kids at 6, 7 years old. Let's use hockey as an example in this country.
And all the money
they'll play hockey all year round. They'll put them in strength and conditioning programs. So these kids go 13, 14. They're burnt out. They hate the sport because that's all they're doing. They get injured because they're creating movement patterns from the same sport, and so they're not really working out everything. Kids need to have fun when they're kids. They need to play every single sport. Not every single sport, but they need to do a variety, like soccer, baseball in the summer, hockey in the winter, martial arts, the base, swimming. And then when they're 13, 14, then they can start figuring out, okay, what do I like? What do I enjoy? And they've worked all these sports to become an athlete. Because when you're at that age, you're in your formative years. You got to figure out what you're good at, what you like. And what happens is, if you're 13, 14, once you hit puberty, they'll know what these kids are going to be pros at if they're going to be pros. Like, they'll know what they're going to enjoy, what they're going to excel at. So let kids be kids and just enjoy sports and have a great. Don't worry about putting them into the gym for strength and conditioning at 7, 8 years old. That's ridiculous. If they want to do some body weight stuff, push-ups, sit-ups, encourage a healthy lifestyle, absolutely, that's great. It's important for kids to play sports, have that team aspect, have that discipline, and encourage the healthy lifestyle, but definitely don't specialize your kids at 8 years old. If they're going to make the NHL, if they're going to make pros or something, you'll figure that out when they're in their teens.
It's fun for them. You constantly want to change it up so it's not as boring with them.
Let them figure it out. Let them be athletes. Let them enjoy themselves. Let them be kids. It just makes me insane when these parents think their 8-year-old's going to be a pro. They put them in, spend thousands of dollars on the strength program and these special private trainers.
They want to invest in it, I get it, but
it's crazy.
Let them have fun.
It's crazy. Let kids be kids.
Next question.
Right.
Hey, Mr. Valtellini, I've been really practicing trying to whip my low kick, studying your fights. It doesn't seem like I move my torso much, but my bottom half seems to do at 180 degrees. Any tips for more faster, effective low kicks? So my question is why I don't turn, and a lot of people, I keep getting this question, why I don't overturn my hip every time when I kick. It's a question that honestly I do get bothered with all the time. It's like a jab. You don't always throw a hard straight jab. There's up jabs, you throw your head off to the side. There's different ways to throw every weapon. So my style of low kick is I like to keep a shield because most people are going to counter the low kick with punches. So am I going to low kick with my hands here? No. I'm going to keep my body nice and structured and land the low kick. And no pivot actually allows the kick to come faster and you get to control your stance more. So if I'm every time turning and powering my kicks, my punch follow is going to be slower and it's going to be a lot harder. So for me, I like to keep a shield. So think about kicking and returning faster. This way your kick will come faster without having to overpower.
Should beginners do a pivot though to learn the kick?
I think there's difference. You got to learn a 45 kick and you got to learn a round kick. So I think there's a definitely benefit in learning both. Remember, there's no one approach. Like you said, there's no one approach. We're running out of time here, so we're going to keep moving on. I have a few questions left. Joe, would it be beneficial for an MMA fighter to also compete in amateur boxing, develop true striking skills? Yes, I believe that it's important to get ring experience, time experience, and the one thing about MMA that bothers me is people have too many coaches. They have a boxing coach, they have a jiu-jitsu coach, they have a wrestling coach, they have a Muay Thai kickboxing coach, they have an overall MMA coach. There's too many coaches where it can overcomplicate the fighters' minds. Bazooka Kickboxing, we have our fighter Matt Special fighting next week, and what makes it very exciting, he gets it all in one house. So having a good coach like the ones like Faraz Sahabi, you know, the Winklejohns, the Greg Jacksons, they're able to put it all together. And I think that's having a good coach that can help. All of that is very important. Yes, I might send my guys to some boxing work, but ultimately they come back into my system, my style, and develop their whole skills. Quickly touch on that, and then we'll go to the next question.
You can't, too many cooks in the kitchen, you got too many people in your ear. All of them may be great, but they're different styles. You need one person to really coordinate that and just bring it all together, because that's the key, or else you're just like a bunch of different parts.
Okay, this is going to be our last question. Where do you look at your opponent's body when fighting? When you have your high guard in your fights and you're being landed on, to always try to keep your eyes open and to see punches coming in. Or do I usually just naturally throw back as an instinct from drilling? I think countering back is an important tool because that what makes the fight active. That's what gives you the points. If someone's constantly hitting you, you got to counter back. And that's one of the biggest benefits for my shield is I can stay on the inside and I can counter back right away. But I like to focus more on the chest. This way I can see the lower body, the knees, and the head. This way it gives me an overall perspective on where to look. Anything else you want to add? We got about a minute and 30 seconds left.
No, I mean, just, you know, again, what the secret is, whether it's in kickboxing, whether it's in strength training, it's consistency. There is no secret. I seen this guy, we worked with him, he got to the title by working his ass off every day and going that extra mile. It wasn't just, let's do this secret technique. It's all the basics. In strength training, it's the basics. You'll see in his videos, it's the basics. It's just be consistent, do it every day, and do it at 100%. That's the secret, and that's all I can tell you.
So a lot of these questions, a lot of them are being answered in our Q&As, in the video. So make sure you're watching all the videos to get a full understanding of what I'm showing, what I'm teaching. This stuff is very valuable. You know, I get a lot of questions on my low kick. I do have a low kick tutorial online. Look it up, watch it. I explain why I keep my shoulder in front, different drills to work the low kick. So keep watching these videos, keep learning. Sorry, I'm recovering from a sickness. But yeah, keep learning, keep watching. Again, thanks for the positivity. Show Costa Kladianos, Tempus Performance some love. If you like this segment and you want more of this, like I said, keep commenting, keep liking, and more likely Costa will share. Peace.